DONYER sewing machine features a heavy-duty metal frame. The inner frame of the sewing machine is constructed of heavy-duty metal. It provides rigid support, holding all the mechanisms in perfect alignment for skip-free sewing and overall durability. It's built for years of extended use. In addition, the machine's stainless steel bed plate provides for smooth fabric feeding. It also helps prevent scratches on the machine surface while sewing.
Start sewing right away with the easy-to-use Brother XM2701. It's perfect for beginners or for more advanced sewers looking for a great portable machine. The 27 built-in stitches include stitches for everyday sewing, blind hems, quilting, and decorative stitches. Selecting your stitch is as easy as turning a dial, and the one-step buttonhole is automatically sized to fit your buttons. You also get 6 quick-change sewing feet, a tremendous value. It's incredibly easy to change between feet. With just a touch of a lever, your needle is threaded for you. With the quick set top drop-in bobbin, there's no need to pull the thread up before use. And it's easy to see when you're low on thread. The LEDs give you a super bright work area to see details. Plus, you'll love how easy the instructions are to follow. Enjoy all the great built-in features, including accessories and Brother support, with the reliable, easy to learn and use XM2701 from Brother.
Tutorial video of sewing machine FHSM 505. You can create a variety of fun projects with the FHSM 505 multifunctional domestic sewing machine. This machine is easy to use for beginning and advanced sewers alike. It's include 12 different stitches, sewing sleeves, automatic thread rewind, built-in sewing light, adjustable high and low speed, change the presser foot to sew different fabrics and crafts. You can use it to change the old cloth and make an unique new one, or make pillow, small cloth for pets or dolls, a cute cup mat, curtains, bags, etc. It will be a good helper for your living. Now, let's get started to know how to use this machine. Threading the machine. 1. Threading the upper thread. Put a spool on the thread spindle, put on the thread spindle cover, pull the thread in counterclockwise so it passes through the bobbin winder tension disc down through the gap. Pull it back up as the arrow shows, go through the take-up lever hole from right to left, then go through the hole next to the needle clamp screw from up to down. Easily thread the needle by sticking the needle threader through the eye from back to front. Pull the thread out about 15 centimeters. Caution: it's very important to thread in a correct way. Please follow each step carefully. The needle eye must be threaded from front to back, otherwise the machine may not sew. 2. Replacing the bottom bobbin. Slide the bobbin cover off and remove the empty bobbin. Put the new bobbin in the holder with the thread going clockwise. Hold the needle thread with left hand and right hand, turn the hand wheel counterclockwise only one round. Then the needle thread will pick up the bobbin thread and pull it up through the hole under the needle. Separate the two threads and pull them to the back of the machine under the presser foot, leaving about 15 centimeters hanging there. Restore the bobbin cover. Caution! Always make sure the bottom thread is picked up from the hole under presser foot with about 15 centimeters hanging out in clockwise direction before you start to sew. Winding the bottom bobbin. First, take the top and bottom thread off, unwind some thread from a bigger spool, pull the thread under the bobbin winder tension disc, put an empty bobbin on the bobbin winder pin, put the thread through any one of the metal holes on the bobbin, then push the bobbin to the right, towards the hand wheel to lock the bobbin. Hold on to the thread, turn the hand wheel 5 to 6 rounds to wind the thread on the bobbin several circles, cut the thread tail, then turn on the power switch to start winding. When you have enough thread wound on, turn off the power switch to stop winding. Cut the thread, push the bobbin to the left, away from the hand wheel, and take the bobbin off. Caution! Make sure there is no thread in the machine before you wind a new bobbin, because this could cause the thread jamming. Replacing the needle. 1. Hold the old needle and loosen the needle clamp screw. Remove the needle and discard it responsibly. 2. Insert the new needle into the clamp with the flat side of the needle toward the presser foot bar and push the needle all the way up. 3. Then tighten the screw. Caution! Always turn off the switch or unplug the adapter before you change the needle. Make sure the new needle faces the right direction and the screw is tightened. Replacing the presser foot. Turn the hand wheel counterclockwise to raise the needle to its highest position. Raise the presser foot lifter and press the presser foot locking lever. The presser foot will drop off automatically from the locking device. Put the presser foot under the presser foot locking device, lower the presser foot lifter, connect the intermediate connecting shaft of locking device and groove on the presser foot, lifting the presser foot lifter. The presser foot will engage automatically. Caution! If the foot has not been picked up, check to make sure the cutout is directly above the pin of the foot and repeat the steps. Using the adapter and foot pedal. Connect the adapter by inserting the jack plug into the DC input and the jack plug of foot pedal into the foot pedal input. Then you can use the foot pedal to control the machine instead of using the hand switch. More easier and convenient to operate. Caution! Make sure the foot pedal and adapter are unplugged from the machine when you're not using it, so the sewing machine won't accidentally start up. Installing the batteries. Remove the battery compartment under the bottom of machine. Insert 4x AA batteries into the compartment per the positive and negative signs on the box and replace the battery cover. Caution! 1. Make sure the power switch is on the off position when inserting or changing the batteries. 2. The adapter and batteries cannot be used at the same time, otherwise will cause the damage on machine. Please take out the batteries when using adapter. 3. The batteries should be inserted in right positive and negative position direction, otherwise the machine will not work. Sewing. 1. First of all, turn the hand wheel counterclockwise to raise the needle to its highest position. 2. Raise the presser foot lifter. 3. Take out of the sample fabric from left side of the machine and leave the thread about 15 centimeters. 4. Place the fabric under the presser foot, lower the presser foot. 5. Turn the hand wheel counterclockwise 2 to 3 rounds to make sure there is no jamming in the stitches. 6. Slide the power switch to the low or high speed position and the machine will automatically start sewing. We recommend the low speed for beginners. 7. Turn off the switch, raise the needle up, turn the pattern selection dial to the pattern stitch you want. 8. When you've finished sewing, turn off the switch, turn the hand wheel to raise the needle up, lift the presser foot and then gently remove the fabric from left and cut the thread with the thread cutter. Caution: before starting sewing, it is important to make sure the threading is correct. Otherwise, it may not sewing. Every time, turn the hand wheel should be in counterclockwise direction as the arrow shows. When you want to change the pattern stitch, stop sewing and turn the hand wheel to raise the needle all the way up so it doesn't get bent. Adjusting stitching. If the top and bottom thread looks too tight or loose, you can turn the upper thread tension dial to adjust the stitching tense. When the top thread looks like a straight line indicating an over-tight top thread, turn the upper thread tension dial to a smaller number to reduce tension. Different fabric with different tension. Turn the tension dial to a smaller number until the stitching back to normal. When the bottom thread looks like a straight line indicating the top thread is too loose, turn the upper thread tension dial to a bigger number to increase tension. Different fabric with different tension. Turn the tension dial to a bigger number until the stitching back to normal. Reverse sewing. To sew backwards, press and hold down the reverse lever while you're sewing. Caution: you should only use reverse sewing on straight stitches number 1 to 4. This is useful for reinforcing the seam. Sewing sleeves. Place the cloth over the sewing arm, then start to sew. Buttonhole sewing. 1. Change the foot to the buttonhole foot. 2. Put the cloth under presser foot and lower the presser foot lifter. Then choose 8th stitch. Turn on the switch and sew 5 to 6 stitch in low speed, then turn off switch. 3. Choose the 7th stitch. Turn on switch and sew on the cloth in suitable length, then turn off the switch. Note that try to keep sewing stitch in straight line. 4. Choose the 8th stitch to sew 5 to 6 stitch in low speed, then turn off switch. 5. Raise the presser foot, rotating the cloth for 180 degrees. 6. Choose the 7th stitch and set the needle to the right position on the fabric. Then lower down the presser foot, turn on switch and sew till buttonhole is over-sewed fully. Nailing button. Change the foot to nail button foot, put the fabric under the presser foot, put the button on the fabric where you need to nail the button, move the fabric with button under presser foot, check if they are under the right position, then lower down the presser foot. Choose the 8th stitch. Turn the hand wheel slowly, adjusting the position of the hole while the needle swinging around. Then turn on switch, sew 4 to 5 stitch in low speed, then turn off switch after done. If you want to nail cross line or double line, doing the steps as above. Caution: before nailing button, you must turn the hand wheel slowly and make sure the needle will only stab into the buttonhole while swinging around in case of breaking the needle. Make sure the hole distance of the button you choose match the needle swinging when it's settled at 8th stitch. in case of nailing on the side of button will break the needle. Important safety instructions. 1. Always disconnect from the power supply when changing the needle. 2. Children should only use the appliance with adult supervision. 3. Never run the machine when there's thread in the needle, but no fabric on the machine. This could damage the machine. 4. Don't use the machine outdoors. 5. Whenever the sewing machine is not in use, make sure it is switched off and unplugged from the power supply. 6. Keep the machine in a dry and ventilated place. 7. This machine is not a toy. 8. Don't disassemble the machine unless you're a professional. 9. Turn off switch and unplug the adapter when you're not using the machine.
Welcome to the Owner's Class video for the Singer Simple 3232 sewing machine. In this video, we're going to go over what you need to know to get started, such as winding a bobbin, threading the needle, selecting a stitch, changing the needle, and more. Let's start by taking a tour of the machine. The first thing we're going to do is plug in the machine and turn it on. And you'll know the machine is on when the light comes on. On the side we have the hand wheel. On the top we have the bobbin winding stopper and bobbin winding spindle, the carry handle, the spool pin where we'll put our thread when we thread the machine, the stitch width dial to adjust the width of our stitches, the tension dial to fine-tune the look of our stitches, the bobbin winding tension disc, a metal threading guide, another metal guide, the take-up lever, which will be really important when we thread the machine. On the front, we have the reverse lever, the stitch length dial, and the stitch selector dial. Down by our needle, we have the built-in needle threader, the needle, the all-purpose foot, and behind the all-purpose foot, we have the presser foot lifter, which raises and lowers our presser foot. When we remove the accessory tray, we expose the free arm of the machine. And when we open the door, we have accessories inside. In this pouch, we have some essentials like needles, extra bobbins, a spool cap, and some additional presser feet, as well as a buttonhole foot. Let's take a look at some of those extra presser feet that come with our machine. In addition to the all-purpose foot that's already on your machine, you get the buttonhole foot for making buttonholes, the button sewing foot for sewing on buttons, and the zipper foot, used for inserting zippers into your projects, but it can also be used for piping. Now let's wind a bobbin. The first thing we need to do to wind a bobbin is take off the removable storage compartment and open this door. Here we'll find our bobbin case. pull this little latch and remove the case. And retrieve your bobbin. This machine uses Class 15 transparent bobbins. If you want to purchase more bobbins for your machine, make sure you purchase Singer Class 15 transparent bobbins. To wind our bobbin, place a spool of thread onto the spool pin and cap it off with a spool cap. Bring the thread to metal guide number 1 and clip it in. Now I'm going to bring the thread down to number 2, the bobbin winding tension discs, and make sure the thread is snug in between those discs. Then I'm going to bring the thread over to number 3, which is our bobbin winding spindle. The bobbin doesn't have a designated top or bottom, so make sure you thread the thread in and out the top of the bobbin. Hold on to the thread tail and click the bobbin into place on the bobbin winding spindle. Make sure the bobbin is all the way on the spindle so that the thread doesn't accidentally wind around the spindle itself. Move the bobbin winding spindle over to the right, hold on to the thread tail, and press the foot control to begin winding. When the thread tail is buried, clip the tail flush with the top of the bobbin and continue winding until the bobbin is full or until you have enough thread for your project. When you're done winding your bobbin, move the bobbin winding spindle back to the left, remove the bobbin, and clip the thread. Now we're ready to insert it into the machine. Now place the bobbin into the bobbin case and pull the thread to make sure the bobbin is rotating in a clockwise motion. Place the thread into this groove and bring the thread under the metal plate. You will feel and hear it click into place. Now hold on to this latch on the front of the bobbin case and insert it, and you will feel it set into place. This finger will be pointed up towards the top of the machine. The first thing I'm going to do before threading the top of my machine is raise the presser foot. Next, turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position. You will also notice that the take-up lever is clearly visible. If you've just wound a bobbin, the top of your machine probably looks like this. Remove the thread from the bobbin winding tension discs. The thread is already in metal guide number 1. Bring it around metal guide number 2 and bring it down number 3. Do a U-turn at number 4 and bring it up to the take-up lever and go from the right to the left and bring it back down. You'll see the thread go into the eye of the take-up lever. Bring the thread down to number 6 and slip it into the guide right above the needle. This machine has a built-in needle threader, so bring the thread over to the metal hook and push down on the built-in needle threader so that it encompasses the needle. Bring the thread in between the 2 prongs and hold on to the thread to give it a bit of tension and release the built-in needle threader. In the back, there will be a little loop. Pull onto that loop and your needle is threaded. So there's one last thing we need to do before we sew on the machine. To draw up the bobbin thread, hold on to the upper thread and turn the hand wheel towards you and make sure you lightly pull up on the upper thread tail. This way you'll be able to pull up a loop of the bobbin thread and place the threads under the presser foot towards the back of the machine. Close the door and put your removable storage compartment back on. Now we're ready to test sew a stitch. Before we do a test stitch out on our machine, make sure this machine is selected for a straight stitch. If it's not, turn your stitch selector dial so that the straight stitch icon is in line with the gray dot above. Make sure your stitch length dial is set between 2 and 3, which is a standard length for a straight stitch. And make sure your stitch width dial is set to 0. Now place your test piece of fabric under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and press your foot control to begin sewing. When you're done sewing, turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position and about to make its descent downward. Raise the presser foot and remove your work. Trim the thread. And here's our stitch. It looks good on the top and it looks good on the back, so it means our machine is threaded properly. If the stitches look good on top but have loops on the bottom or these little wavy zigzags, it means the upper thread isn't threaded properly. Rethread your machine and do another test sew. Now we're ready to sew a seam. The machine is already set for a straight stitch. I notice on the needle plate there are some lines. While the needle is in center position, the line closest to the presser foot is 3/8 of an inch. The second line to the right is 1/2 inch. And the third line over is 5/8 of an inch. A lot of commercial patterns I work with use 5/8 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to follow the third line. Place the fabric under the presser foot so that the edge of the seam lines up with your guideline, and lower the presser foot. Press the foot control and sew forward a few stitches. Press and hold the reverse lever and sew backwards a few stitches. Release the reverse lever and sew along your seam. Notice I'm not pushing or pulling the fabric, I'm just guiding it along my guideline. Stop at the end of the fabric, press and hold the reverse lever, and sew backwards a few stitches. Release the reverse lever and sew to the end. Turn the hand wheel so the needle is in the highest position and is about to make its descent downward. Raise the presser foot and remove the fabric. And here's our seam. The reverse stitching at the beginning and end of the seam secure the thread so that it doesn't become unraveled. Now let's take a look at some of our other stitches. To select another stitch on the machine, I'm going to come to the stitch selector dial and I want to do a multi-step zigzag stitch. So I'm going to move the dial until it clicks into place on this grouping of stitches that contains a multi-step zigzag stitch. But I see 3 colors. I see gray, blue, and red. So how do I know which one I'm going to sew? If I come up to the stitch length dial, I see that my numbers are in gray. So if the gray numbers line up with the gray dot above, then I'm going to sew a gray stitch. If I want to sew the blue honeycomb stitch, I'm going to turn my stitch length dial so that it clicks on the blue S1. If I want to sew the red feather looking stitch, I'm going to turn my stitch length dial and click it into place on the red S2. But I want to sew a gray multi-step zigzag, so I'm going to turn the stitch length dial back to where we had it between 2 and 3. Because these are decorative stitches, there needs to be width involved. So I'm going to come up to the stitch width dial and I'm going to move it all the way up to 5. Now let's see what that looks like. Place the fabric under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing. Turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position, about to descend downward. Raise the presser foot. Remove the fabric and trim the thread. And there's our multi-step zigzag stitch. Now I want to sew this blue honeycomb stitch. The stitch grouping is already selected on my stitch selector dial. I'm going to come up to the stitch length dial and move it so that the blue S1 is selected. The stitch width dial is already set to number 5. To sew the honeycomb stitch, place the fabric under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing. When you've reached the end of the fabric, turn the hand wheel towards you so that the needle is in the highest position, about to descend downward. Raise the presser foot. Remove the fabric from under the presser foot and trim the threads. And there's our honeycomb stitch. Lastly, I want to sew the red feather stitch. The stitch grouping is already selected on my stitch selector dial, and I'm going to come up to the stitch length dial and turn it so that the red S2 is selected. And the stitch width dial is already set to number 5. Now to sew the feather stitch, place the fabric under the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and begin sewing. Stop sewing once you've reached the end of your fabric. Turn the hand wheel towards you so the needle is in the highest position, about to descend downward. Raise the presser foot. Remove the fabric from under the presser foot and trim the threads. And there's our feather stitch. Now let's make a buttonhole. The first thing you need to do when making a buttonhole is stabilize the fabric. Then move your button to where you want the buttonhole sewn on your project. And mark the bottom of the buttonhole. Then create a perpendicular straight line to act as a guideline for our buttonhole. Now go to the stitch selector dial and select the buttonhole stitch. Then go up to your stitch length dial and select this gray area that looks like a buttonhole. Go up to your stitch width dial and move it to 5. Now we need to put the buttonhole foot on our machine. Take off the removable storage compartment and retrieve the buttonhole foot. Raise the top of the buttonhole foot. Place your button inside and close the top so that your button is snug inside. Put the removable storage compartment back on the machine. To remove the all-purpose foot already on the machine, grab the all-purpose foot and push it toward you, and it will snap off. Place the buttonhole foot so that the metal bar lines up with the opening of the shank, and push it away from you, and it will snap into place. Then, slide the buttonhole lever down and push it back. Take your marked fabric, line up the small guideline we made with the opening in the buttonhole foot, lower the buttonhole foot, and press the foot control to begin sewing. Once the buttonhole is complete, turn the hand wheel so that the needle is in the highest position, about to descend downward. Raise the presser foot and remove your fabric. And there's our buttonhole. To secure your thread tails from the buttonhole, thread them into the eye of a hand sewing needle and move the threads to the back side of the buttonhole and tie them to secure. To open the buttonhole, place a pin at the top bar tack. This will keep us from accidentally cutting through our bar tack. Take the seam ripper buttonhole opener that's located in your removable storage compartment, insert it at the bottom of the buttonhole, and move your way up carefully. Remove the pin, and there's our buttonhole. To change the needle, retrieve this L-shaped screwdriver from your removable storage compartment. I'm going to place a piece of paper over the feed teeth, just so I don't accidentally drop the needle into my machine. Hold the needle and turn the needle clamp screw towards you to loosen it. Pull down on the needle, and it's been removed. Take a new needle with the flat side to the back and insert it into the needle clamp. Turn the needle clamp screw away from you to tighten it, and remove the paper. Now you've changed a needle. To learn more about your machine, refer to your instruction manual or check out the Singer site.